I want to welcome back Sean Patel, who's the CEO and founder of Prep Expert. Sean, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, John. Just wanted to do a quick shout out for an amazing deal that we have for college admissions process podcast listeners. We're offering 30% off all Prep Expert SAT and ACT courses and tutoring. It's live online. We've got the best score improvement guarantees in the industry. You'll get taught by 99 percentile instructors, and you can save 30% off when you go to the show notes of the College Admissions Process podcast. Grab your discount code for 30% off and click the link in the show notes.
Thank you, Sean. So great to have you again. And to everyone out there, please note that if you make a purchase through any of our affiliate links, the podcast gets a commission. But rest assured that we would only promote products that we believe in and feel would benefit our listeners. Thank you all and best wishes. Welcome to the CAP, the College Admissions Process Podcast. I am your host, John Durante, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you today Mason Traino, who is the Senior Assistant Director of Transfers at St. Peter's University in Jersey City, New Jersey. Mason, thank you so much for being here today. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for having me, John. It's a great day, and I love to be able to talk about the process of admissions here at St. Peter's University.
Well, that's what the podcast is all about. So we're thrilled and excited to have you here, Mason. So let's start by just asking you to give us a brief introduction about yourself. How long have you been in admissions, and how did you end up in such a position?
Yeah, great question. As you said, my name is Mason Traino. I'm the Senior Assistant Director of Transfers at St. Peter's Admissions Office. I began being in admissions, I would say, as a student when I went to a similar small private institution in New Jersey. I was a tour ambassador, so I worked in the admissions office during my undergraduate time, worked with the admissions staff, things like that, gave tours. When it came time to graduate, I really didn't have any, I had a couple prospects for jobs, things like that. But then they kind of approached me a little bit later on in the summer, say, hey, we would love for you to come back and work for us in our admissions office as a road runner. And my mind's like, do you mean like Wile E. Coyotes chasing me, or like what's a road runner? Because I have no idea. So they explained it was basically we give you a territory and you just go to college fairs and high schools in that territory. So I started out with New England, Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania, things like that. Then when that was done, because that was kind of from July to December, they offered me a full-time role as an admissions counselor, and then gave me Southern New Jersey as my primary territory because that's where I grew up. So I knew the market, knew the students, knew the populations, knew where I needed to go. That was about 2014. It'll be about 9 years in September in this industry, and I'm actually coming up on my 1 year anniversary with St. Peter's as their transfer rep. I started last June with them working with the transfer students recruiting at community colleges, which I've had a lot of experience with in the past as well.
Well, congratulations on the anniversary. Obviously, St. Peter's is very lucky to have you, as are we, on today's podcast. So, Mason, what are some of the things that you love about St. Peter's University?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a hidden gem in Jersey City itself. They've been there for over 150 years, which is surprising in
Wow.
itself. Many institutions, especially the smaller, private institutions, and we're the only Jesuit institute in the state of New Jersey. Now, for many people who may not know what that is, basically Jesuit is basically a sect of the Catholic Church. It's part of that. It's just a different division. Like there's the Dominicans, things like that. So this is kind of separate of that. What that kind of entails for students is just adds to our mission statement, cura personalis, the care for the whole person. And I think that's what attracted me the most to St. Peter's is that mission itself. And it's that small campus sense of community, but you're also in the heart of Jersey City. So you get that city vibe as well. You hear traffic outside your classroom 9 out of 10 times during the day. It's a great cultural hub as well. There's a lot of great food and the close proximity to New York City. I think that's what really attracted me to come work for this place, and which kind of what we talk to students about as well as we tell them what's it like here. And obviously we can only convey so much. That's why we encourage so many to come to our campus and see what we actually can provide. We can put all these beautiful pictures online and brochures, but really when you get to campus, that's that great feeling you're going to get. And I think you'll know as a student if that's the place where you belong as soon as you step on that campus.
Well, thank you so much for explaining the Jesuit mission. We appreciate that. You talked about your small campus, your sense of community, and not far from New York City itself, which offers obviously a lot of opportunities for your students, not only on your campus, but off your campus. So, again, we appreciate that, Mason. And what are the most important factors that St. Peter's University considers when reviewing applications from incoming freshmen?
Yeah, I mean, like many colleges, we look at the transcript, the letters of recommendation, we read your essay, and in some cases, we may need your test scores depending on the program that you're interested in. For example, it may be for nursing or for one of our pre medicine tracks that we have. Those are the ones we require either the SAT or ACT for. Ultimately, we look at everything as a holistic process. And what that means is we look at everything. We don't just look at the standardized test scores or your GPA. We read the letters of recommendation that your teachers, guidance counselor, employer, or coach provide. We also read the essay because those are two big points that kind of talk about who you are outside of those grades. And I think that's definitely a big part of the admissions process is we want to know who you are, why you want to come here, and kind of what you want to do with that degree that you're looking for.
Well, we appreciate you talking about the holistic process. And I also appreciate the fact that you talked about test scores. Many institutions may be test optional, but you talked about the fact that, for example, in your nursing program, they require that test score. So, students, if a school says that they're test optional, which many are, please make sure if you're applying to a specific major to see whether or not the test optional nature of your application differs again if you're applying to something like a nursing major or engineering. So Mason, we really appreciate that. A lot of people ask about demonstrated interest. So how important is demonstrated interest in St. Peter's University, and do you use it as part of your application review process?
Demonstrated interest is always great. It's great to see students that want to be part of our campus community and things of that nature. When it comes time to the admissions process, we don't really have that play a role in it, at least on our side of things for that. I like to see students definitely be engaged, be interested in what we have to offer, whether that means as simple as answering an email, like, hey, FYI, we're missing X, Y, and Z to complete your application. Just that small interaction lets us know, okay, you are serious about applying to St. Peter's. You really do want to be part of this community. It just adds more to us as more that one on one, get to know our applicants, that sort of scenario. But that's why we always encourage people to come to campus because that shows a huge interest. That shows that you're willing to take time out of either your day or out of your weekend to come to a campus event or things like that. That definitely adds a little bit to it, but it adds to our side of the recruitment as well that we know, okay, you may be a great prospect, you may be a great student to come join our campus because you've been engaging with us. That goes a little bit long way, and it adds to that one-on-one experience we always talk about.
Well, I appreciate you emphasizing the importance of visiting campus. Students, if you can't visit before you apply, certainly if you're accepted, try to visit at least before you matriculate, as it's difficult to replicate being on campus in a Zoom or anything else. So we appreciate that, Mason. And you touched upon testing a little earlier, but can you elaborate on how important are standardized test scores in the admissions process for incoming freshmen at St. Peter's University?
Sure. So we are test optional. What that means is you do not need to provide either your SAT or ACT scores. However, a couple programs do require it. So if you're looking at going into our nursing program, our honors program, or any of our pre medicine tracks that are affiliated with other institutions, those are usually the ones that we ask for the standardized test scores. That's usually set by the department themselves, what their standards are, what they want for scores. So it may not be us setting the standards, it may be an external factor setting those standards.
Well, we appreciate that. And again, your test optional. However, if you're applying to certain programs, nursing, your honors program, or anything within your pre med umbrella, obviously those programs need test scores. So we appreciate that, Mason. And how does St. Peter's University evaluate and weigh a student's GPA? For example, Do you use the GPA indicated on the transcript or do you recalculate it yourself?
Yeah, so we actually just use the GPA that's on the transcript. We do look at the individual classes as well while we make our decision. We have kind of like an internal point system and things like that that we utilize to determine scholarship eligibility and things like that as well. What we do is we just look at a lot of your basic courses. Obviously, we're not going to put gym, or in some cases, if the school awards a credit for lunch, things like that, we kind of set aside a little bit just internally, just because we know that doesn't always. We look more at the academics than some of the extracurriculars that may be built into that transcript.
Well, that's very interesting. And I heard of a lot of different things with high schools throughout the country, but I never heard about a credit for lunch. So thank you for sharing that insight, Mason. We appreciate it. And Mason, are there any common mistakes that incoming freshman applicants make on their applications that you could share with us?
Yeah, a couple that I've seen, and like I said, I've done this for almost 9 years now, so I've seen almost a little bit of everything, and every year something always surprises me. I think definitely one of the big things is we're seeing that students using their school email addresses, we usually have been finding that a lot of our marketing emails and things like that get flagged by the school districts themselves based on how they have their email criteria set up and things like that. So we always recommend that students use a personal email that we can get in contact with. Or what I've also been saying is students should create a college email, just like, for example, first name, last name, college at Gmail, and then have all your college stuff sent to that. So it doesn't flood your personal inbox, but at least it goes to a dedicated inbox that it's not going to get filtered out, that you still do check. I did something similar when I was planning my wedding, that I didn't want all these emails. So I'm like, let's create a separate email. It worked fantastic that it just went there. I checked it, and then we went on from there. One of the other things is we've seen kind of sometimes grammatical errors. Like, just take a second, reread things, look at it. One of the big things we've seen is students, for example, that live in Philadelphia. We all know it as Philly, but it doesn't work when you go to put in an address. If we go to send you something, it usually gets sent back. So just, kind of the street term of things need to be fully spelled out. As silly as that is, as someone who grew up down there, it just never would have dawned on me to fully write out Philadelphia, because let's face it, who really wants to try and spell that out every single time?
Well, we appreciate that. And of course, we love Philly. So a shout out to all of the people listening from Philadelphia. So I also appreciate you talking about the perhaps not to use the school issued email address. As we know, many times those get flagged, they get filtered, sent to a spam folder, and you don't want to miss any important emails from college students. So great advice to create your own separate personal email specific to college so that you don't miss anything. So great advice. And how does the admissions process differ for transfer students compared to your incoming freshmen?
Sure. So, I mean, the college process is the same. We ask for the application, whether it's our website application or it's the common application. And then basically for transfer students, we need all college level transcripts, whether you took one course or you took 13 courses. We'll need all of them. And basically, we only ask for them unless you have 12 credits or less from either a 4-year school or a 2-year school. Then we'll ask for the official high school transcript, just to show proof of graduation, more or less. And then we just review from there. And then from there, we do a full credit evaluation, and we give that to the student as well, so that they can see what classes they've taken from their previous institution and where it fits in with our degree programs.
Well, I appreciate that you sharing that for transfer students. They need to submit all of their college level transcripts. If they have fewer than the 12 credits, then of course, that's when you look at their high school transcript. So that's great insight. What factors, Mason, are most important in the evaluation of transfer student applicants?
I think one of the big factors is us seeing them successful in their entry level coursework, meaning that they're being successful in English 101, Math 101, things like that. With students that are coming from the community colleges themselves, we really encourage them to finish their associate's degree itself, so that they have that 2 years of experience. And majority of the time when they transfer into schools like us, they will just complete the final 2 years and move in through that process. So we like to see them finish that associate's degree because it gives them more time in the community college. We're not taking the students early from the community colleges. Along with that, it also gives them at least the associate's degree to fall back on if they don't complete the bachelor's degree, which we all hope they finish the bachelor's degree.
Well, that's great advice. And how does St. Peter's University evaluate transfer credits from other institutions?
Sure, as long as the institution is accredited, we can take up to 66 credits from community colleges and up to 90 credits from 4 year colleges. We also require them the grade of the course to be a C or higher and a minimum of 3 credits to earn a course with us.
That's great. And how does the admissions team evaluate essays and, of course, letters of recommendation?
Yeah, essays and letters of recommendation, I think, are crucial parts of the process that I think a lot of people don't think about, is because it now puts a human factor into the process itself. Instead of just looking at the grade point average, what classes you take, now I get to know who you are as a person, why you want to go into this program, why you want to come to St. Peter's University. And I think that's where we get to know the students better. And I don't want to say mistake, but one thing I have seen a lot of students move away from is writing exciting essays. They're writing more about why they want to go into it, why they're passionate. When I first started this in admissions, everyone was writing those exciting essays of it's like bottom of the ninth, full count, bases loaded, the sweat beating down from my forehead. Like, I love a good sports story. I love those exciting essays, but that doesn't tell me about you. That tells me, oh, great, you're a successful closing pitcher. Way to go. You won the championship. That's great. But why do you want to go into business? I think this is where those essays come in that gives us an idea who you are. And it also gives us an idea where your writing skills are at as well. I think that's the crucial part that sometimes we don't think about is this also kind of gives an idea of this is where you're at writing level wise as well. And the letters of recommendation, it gives you a personality as well. It tells me that this person knows you just not in the classroom, but also knows you from your extracurricular activities or from your job. It shows who you are as a hardworking person as well.
Well, that's great advice. And we always talk about the fact that each part of the application has to build on the next. So if you're a baseball player and that's clear in your activity sheet, if you're using your essay to write about the fact that you're a baseball player and that's it, it's a missed opportunity as you're basically just repeating what's already clear on your activity sheet. So it's very important that each piece build on the next. The essay is your voice about yourself. A letter of recommendation, students, of course, is someone else's voice about you. And hopefully they're able to give the admissions representatives insight in terms of your personality and who you are as a person. So we appreciate that, Mason. Thank you so much. And how do you handle situations where a student's academic record may not be as strong as other aspects of their application?
Yeah, I mean this goes back to that holistic approach where we look at the essay, the letters, the transcript and everything like that. Sometimes it may just be as simple as us reaching out to them, having a conversation on the phone or in person, just hey, we saw that you did great your freshman year. We saw that you did great your sophomore year. We saw you drop off a little bit junior year. Kind of talk to us about what happened that year. Did you have a death in the family? Were you sick that for half the semester that year? Because we understand life happens. And sometimes that little explanation gives us, okay, this is kind of an outlier of a year. We feel comfortable. Let's wait for your midterm grades from senior year or wait for your final grades your senior year, and we can move forward that way.
Well, we appreciate you talking about your holistic approach. And students, like Mason said, if there's a dip, explain why. Don't leave it for the admissions representative to speculate as to why you had a dip in a certain class. Maybe there was a year that was really off. It's really up to you throughout that whole application to explain it. Otherwise, you're leaving it up to admissions representatives to come up with some idea as to why, which is difficult to do unless you explain. So that's great advice and great insight, Mason. We appreciate it. And what resources does St. Peter's University offer to help students that may have had an IEP while in high school to help ensure that they continue to be successful once they're on your campus?
Yeah, so for any student who may need accommodations or has an IEP, that if they're transferring their IEP to from high school to college, we do have someone that does work with students on that. They work with the accommodations, they'll ask for the required paperwork, they'll go through the process, and then they'll let you know what they can and cannot do. And then you kind of work with them. They let the faculty members know as well so that they can also accommodate as well.
Well, that's terrific. And Mason, this has been a phenomenal conversation. By the way, I always put the Office of Undergraduate Admissions in the show notes. If there are any other links that you want to share, just send them to me. And of course, I'll make them available to the students and the parents in the podcast episode show notes. This has been an amazing conversation, Mason. I can't thank you enough. Unfortunately, it does lead us to the last question, which is what are your top three pieces of advice you would provide a student and their parents getting ready for the college admissions process?
This one is always I've looked at this question for almost about a week now. Thinking of the 9 years that I've done this, and almost every recruitment class is different, but there's always been one piece that has been the same almost every year is come to college campuses, whether it's St. Peter's, whether it's another institution, but just during the process itself, visit, do your research, find out what their graduation rates are, things like that. But most importantly, come to the campuses. I can't stress enough that when you take your first step onto any college campus, within, I would say, 30 minutes of that visit, you're going to know whether or not you're going to feel at home here or you're not going to feel comfortable. And I think that's a huge part of this process. Another piece is always ask questions. I know it may seem like you're bothering the admissions staff or anyone else on campus when you send them an email. Hey, I have a quick question. Send us that email, send us that text, send us that phone call. Our job is to be able to answer these questions to make the process seamless for you. Let us do a lot of the grunt work, get things done, things like that. I had a student the other night email me at 1 o'clock in the morning because it was on their mind. And it starts with, sorry to bother you. I know it's late. And I email back, hey, I get it. It's, for you, this is when you're thinking about these things. Don't feel bad that you're emailing us. I'd rather you email it and, get it addressed and instead of just ignoring it. And lastly, this is a lot for the students because I think about how I went through the process and things like that. Come into college open-minded. High school, the past 4 years, that's behind you. College is where you're going to make your own brand. And I say that as you're going to become who you are the rest of your life. This is where you're going to meet a lot of your great friends, maybe coworkers, maybe bosses. You never know who you're going to meet in the process, but this is the time to fine tune who you are as a person and make that who you are, and that will be your permanent brand.
Well, I really appreciate that. You emphasize the importance of visiting campus and doing your research. As we said earlier, if you can't visit before applying, certainly if you're accepted, it's really important to visit the campus to just make sure that it is, in fact, the right fit for you. I love how you talk about emailing the reps. Many people think that they shouldn't, they're afraid that there's going to be some kind of a stigma on them. But as you said, it's very important to stay in touch, email the reps. Certainly don't email them something that's very simple to find on their website. Be thoughtful about the email, but it is important to reach out. And as Mason said it, and many before him, they are here to serve, to represent their communities, their colleges. So don't be bashful, students, to reach out. And lastly, have an open mind. I loved what you said. Make your own brand. Don't follow where your friends are going, where maybe a relative is forcing you to go. Be yourself. Take your time doing the research and come up with the right fit for you. There is a school out there for everyone. In fact, there's more than one school for everyone. However, not every school is for every student. And so following the advice that Mason spelled out is really important in the process. Mason, this was awesome. Can't thank you enough. I'm so happy as I know it's going to help a lot of students and their parents. I hope to have you again. You were terrific. Thank you so much.
Thanks, John.
Thank Thank you for joining us on this episode of The CAP, the College Admissions Process Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please don't forget to tell a friend and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. I am your host, John Durante, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of The CAP. Hey, podcast friends, are you or someone you know in need of some custom college gear? Prep Sportswear carries a wide variety of college fan gear and apparel, including t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, hats, and so much more. So whether you're getting ready to go to the game, hanging out on campus, organizing a college bed decorating party, or you're simply looking to build upon your college gear, Prep Sportswear has you covered. Check out our Prep Sportswear affiliate partnership link in the show notes for all the details. Please note that if you make a purchase through any of our affiliate links, the podcast gets a commission, but rest assured that we would only promote products that we believe in and feel would benefit our listeners. Thank you all, and best wishes.